Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. You know, I saw that Face-Off, HBO's Face-Off, for the Manny Pacquiao-Timothy Bradley fight, and had some opinions I wanted to share. First, let me say that I feel that fight's a toss-up. I feel that Timothy Bradley is a very live underdog. I think Bradley has a pretty good chance of winning that fight. And all he has to do, in my opinion, is to survive the early rounds. I'm talking about the first 3 or 4 rounds. If he gets out of those first 3 or 4 rounds without having been badly hurt or knocked down, then I think he has a chance to completely shake us all up by literally deconstructing Manny Pacquiao. Now, that said, let me just say, you know, HBO has had a long-standing relationship with Manny Pacquiao, and it showed in this face-off. I thought the face-off was ridiculous. First, let me say that Max Kellerman is talking to Timothy Bradley, who is unbeaten, who himself has had belts. And he's asking Bradley whether he thinks he can handle Manny Pacquiao's power and things like that. At one point, he even says, well, when I look at you, I don't think of Floyd Mayweather or Pernell Whitaker. Right? Now, let me just say this. I believe Timothy Bradley has gotten hit by a guy who hits harder than Manny Pacquiao, and that's Kendall Holt. Kendall Holt's left hook. Let me challenge YouTube Nation. Take a look online right now of the Bradley-Kendall Holt fight. I believe it's early in that fight that Bradley almost gets decapitated by a Kendall Holt left hook. Now, let's not get too carried away with who's champion and the top 10 pound for pound. Let's face it. Some guys who aren't in the top 10 pound for pound have some of the best punches in the sport, right? Randall Bailey, the knockout king, his right hand matches up with any pound for pound. So too does Kendall Holt's left hook. This left hook, pound for pound, is on par with Saul Alvarez's left hook. It is a one-punch knockout maker. Take a look at his fight against Julio Diaz. And you're going to see Kendall Holt hits him with a left hook, and life has changed, right? Against Timothy Bradley, Kendall Holt hits Bradley so hard that when you look at the film, Bradley's feet leave the canvas. Bradley is knocked down early, and he's hurt. Now, all I can say is, and I know Shane Mosley said after the fight that he'd never been hit as hard as he was by Manny Pacquiao. And I'm aware that I'm going to get a lot of comments here about Manny Pacquiao knocking out Ricky Hatton. Okay? Fair enough. Right? Hatton was out cold. No question about it. But I would argue that Kendall Holt, who's a bigger man, just look at Kendall Holt's back. You'll see the muscles. I would argue that Kendall Holt's left hook is at least as strong as the best punch Manny Pacquiao can throw. And I would argue that that's a straight left hand. Remember, Manny is a southpaw, right? And so when I'm watching a show and I'm seeing an unbeaten champion, and keep in mind, by the way, he's the only unbeaten fighter on the program, right? Keep that in mind. When I'm seeing an unbeaten champion being asked, by the way, not just a champion, but a guy who literally fought a unification match against unbeaten Devin Alexander, who himself was a champion, right? So this guy has not only been a champion, he's actually fought in a champion unification match, right? When I see an unbeaten champion being asked how he's going to deal with the power of another fighter and with the style of another fighter, as if that champion is unprepared for this fight, I have to sit there and I have to chuckle. You know, this face-off seems to have been made for the Manny Pacquiao fan club. I didn't think it was remotely based in reality. Let me go one step further. We talk about the tight corners in boxing. Ann Wolfe, James Kirkland, corners like that, where guy goes back to the corner. Andre Ward's corner, right? The guy goes back to the corner, and you know that the cornerman has credibility with the fighter, and the cornerman can keep it real. Naseem Richardson, Bernard Hopkins, right? There are a few really great corners in the sport. Freddie Roach, Manny Pacquiao, right? Well, understand, one of the great corners in the sport is Diaz and Timothy Bradley. If you followed Bradley, you know, in fact, this Kendall Holt fight that I'm talking about, that you need to see. When Bradley goes back to the corner after nearly having been decapitated with most of the fight to go, right? Understand that Diaz is in the corner. They're calm. It's back to work, right? You know, I know Freddie Roach seems to be the annual recipient of Trainer of the Year. But the bottom line is that in the sport, there are several good trainers. Roger Mayweather comes to mind, right? And all I'm saying is this, you know, strip away the HBO affiliation, the fame, the fact that he's recognizable. The bottom line is I'm not even sure if he's the best trainer in this fight. I really feel that Diaz in Bradley's corner is a great trainer. It's an interactive corner. Let me just say, Manny Pacquiao in his last fight against Marquez, if he fought the fight Freddie Roach wanted him to fight, he would have done a lot better. Just listen to what Freddie Roach is telling him between rounds. But Manny Pacquiao at the end of the day is his own man. He doesn't really follow the corner religiously. Well, let me just say, it's different with Bradley and Diaz. I'm not saying the fighter needs to necessarily follow what the trainer has to say every round. But those two guys have an ongoing dialogue during a fight where they're talking about what they're seeing as the fight goes along, right? Also, let me say this too. You know, Timothy Bradley's greatness is really not above the waist. It's not in hand speed and punching power. It's actually, and don't get carried away with this one, okay? It's actually below the waist because Bradley's feet are excellent. He knows how to cut off the ring. He knows how to get a Devin Alexander or a Kendall Holt or a Junior Witter, another big hitter he beat, up on the ropes. If you want to see how Timothy Bradley is going to fight Manny Pacquiao, just look at the Kendall Holt fight. I know Holt is taller, but understand the greatness of Bradley is Bradley's able to back up even the most aggressive fighters, right? Fighters complain about Bradley's head, right? Headbutts. But understand what they're really complaining about is the fact that Bradley has backed them up and he's in their chest, right? That's what they're complaining about. Now, I've been saying, and keep in mind, I picked Manny in this fight. I don't want to hear I'm hating on Manny, whatever. I picked Manny in this fight. But if you look at the Ricky Hatton fight, Hatton has great feet. If you look at the Ricky Hatton fight, and I know Hatton gets dropped in the first round, he gets stopped in the second round, Hatton kept getting hit with big punches. But if you look at the Hatton fight, you're going to see that Ricky Hatton, in that short fight, had actually started backing up Manny Pacquiao. And the point is this. Manny Pacquiao cannot fight backing up right? I don't believe Manny Pacquiao is that good a fighter inside. Pacquiao is a master in the middle of the ring. He plays angles phenomenally well. He bounces side to side. He's throwing combinations. He always has a hand speed advantage. No question about any of that. But what I want you to do is to look again at that Hatton film. Look at the Antonio Margarito fight. Right before Margarito's eye gets hurt, you're going to see that Margarito had backed up Manny Pacquiao in that fight. Right? The point I'm making is simply that styles make fights. And for Max Kellerman to be focusing on hand speed and power ignores a whole dynamic in the game. Right? Feet, movement, the ability to cut off the ring. If Bradley is able to survive the power shots, if he can figure out, and it's difficult, just ask Juan Manuel Marquez, who got dropped early in the first two Pacquiao fights. If he can figure out the angles at which Manny's punches are coming early, right? If he could avoid the disastrous first round that Marquez had the first time he fought Pacquiao, right? And if he can walk down Manny Pacquiao, I'm just here to tell you that if Pacquiao's back hits the ropes, and Timothy Bradley is the guy in front of him, not Ricky Hatton, but a more skilled fighter, Timothy Bradley, Manny Pacquiao might break. I mean, literally. Okay, Pacquiao's accustomed to coming forward, overwhelming guys with hand speed. Right? We saw with his stablemate, another Freddie Roach fighter, Amir Khan. When Amir Khan's back hit the ropes against Lamont Peterson, even Khan supporters know their fighter was on shaky ground. Right? A lot of his advantages, the hand speed, the foot speed, the combinations, went out the window because he didn't know how to fight with his back against the ropes. It's a skill very few have. Don't be fooled by the Miguel Cotto, Floyd Mayweather recent fight. Right? I know Mayweather did a lot of great work backed up against the ropes. Mayweather is one of very few fighters in the sport. I mean, very few fighters in the sport who literally excel with their back up against the ropes. I mean, off the top of my head, I could really only name two others right now on the fly. James DeGale and Adrian Broner. Right? I don't believe Manny Pacquiao is Floyd, DeGale, or Adrian Broner with his back up against the ropes. Right? And so anything can happen in this fight. Bradley got decked by Kendall Holt early. Bradley certainly could get decked by Manny Pacquiao early. Right? Bradley has been down in fights. That could happen here. But understand there's another scenario that could easily happen. Manny Pacquiao gets backed up against the ropes like he was by slow-moving Antonio Margarito. The problem is now he's fighting a guy who's about his size, who's much better on the inside, who's much faster than Antonio Margarito, who throws much shorter punches than Antonio Margarito, and who is mentally tough. In other words, we saw Margarito crack against Shane Mosley. Right? There seemed to be a time in that fight where Margarito, who had been smiling at Mosley's punches, started smiling in embarrassment at getting spanked. Right? We haven't seen Timothy Bradley cracked. We've seen him knocked down. We haven't seen him cracked. Bradley is one of the mentally toughest guys I've come across in this sport. Right? And Bradley, quite frankly, knows how to walk you down without throwing punches. Right? It's, if Bradley comes forward, covers up from distance, and I know I'm going to sound like a hater, but from distance, Manny Pacquiao is a one-handed fighter. Up close, he does have a right hook. He doesn't have anything from the right side from distance. he's just framing a left hand. Take a look at the films. He's just framing a left hand. He does flurry with combinations like Miguel Cotto flurries with combinations, but I believe opponents know they don't have to worry about that right hand. You put a one-handed fighter in front of Timothy Bradley, and what is going to prevent Bradley from blocking that left on the way in, not throwing a lot of punches, literally walking down Manny Pacquiao, getting him on the ropes, making the fight an inside brawl? Andre Ward, Alan Green, right? What's to stop Timothy Bradley from doing that? Now, unfortunately, that scenario apparently wasn't even one anyone took seriously on this HBO Faceoff show, right? The focus was really on, hey, Tim, do you think you're ready for Manny? Then, of course, they had Freddie Roach talking about how he thought, there would be a stoppage in the fight. And, of course, Bradley's group, basically said, yeah, there might be a stoppage of Manny. Hey, I enjoyed the theater. But theater aside, Timothy Bradley is more than ready for this fight. Timothy Bradley will be the unbeaten champion in this fight. Timothy Bradley doesn't want to just beat Pacquiao. Timothy Bradley has already called out Floyd Mayweather. He wants Mayweather next, and he's ready to be drug tested, right? This is a guy who is conceding nothing, who sees himself as the best in the sport. And given that he fought Junior Witter in the United Kingdom, he fought Kendall Holt, given that he fought unbeaten Devin Alexander, when are we going to start looking at Timothy Bradley as an elite fighter, right? I think this fight's a toss-up. I thought the HBO Faceoff was a bit biased. Let me know what you think. Leave your comments for me here online. To the Pacquiao crowd, if you think I'm a hater, go ahead and leave comments and tell me why. But leave your comments for me here online. All I can say is this. I've been reading reports about Bradley having bad defense. Really? Does anyone believe Bradley has bad defense? I'm hearing Bradley has average hand speed. Come on. You got to be kidding me, right? People are commenting on Bradley's chin. You know what? I don't know too many guys in the sport who would get hit flush by Kendall Holt who wouldn't go down, right? My point is simply, the media has been overdoing it against Bradley. I think the Vegas casinos have this fight wrong. I didn't see anything in Pacquiao's last fight against Marquez that would indicate that he's the big bad wolf. I think this fight is a toss-up. I think Bradley is a live underdog. I hope you leave your comments, and I hope you visit us at gamblersadvisory.com. Thanks for watching.